Welcome back to you, Sugar Muffins. Recently, I've been hearing some word. A few of you have not been wearing your fluffy slippers every day. And I've been tagged relentlessly, noticing everyone saying the same thing. They've been saying, what the hell is a SPI? What is a SPI? Tell us what a SPI is. You've been talking about it for 3 months. We don't get you. And here I am scratching my head going like, what are you talking about, SPI? And then it hit me. Oh my God. Friends, you mean a spear. Okay? A spear. Friends, spear of the ecosystem. It means the leader. So for my Yankee friends, it's spear. For my Pommy friends, it is spear. For my Espanol friends, it's espiro. It's not that, by the way. Okay. So spear, all right, it means the leader of the ecosystem. PulseChain is the SPI of the ecosystem. SPI. Yes, that's how we talk here. We wrestle crocodiles part-time. What were you expecting? We don't have time to finish off our sentences. That's how everything works here. So, you know what else is a spear, right? Oil. Okay, so have you heard of a commodity called oil? Oil is a spear of the whole commodities market. Everybody watches the price of oil. When oil goes up, it drives all agriculture, everything, all different commodities. You know, you got your cows, you got your wheat, you got your corn, you got everything. If oil goes up, everything is derived from it. You need all the trucks to transport all these. The price of everything goes up. Does that make sense? That's why it's a core spear, right? Oil is what we call a spear, right? Oil gets crushed, you know everything's going down. Oil goes up, you know that's it. Everything's screwed, all right? The price of everything's going up. Now, in the PulseChain ecosystem, Pulse itself is the spear. What do I mean by that? It is the figurehead. It is the link to the outside world. It's where everybody's going to enter and everybody's going to exit. We can actually see this and calculate the real number here. If you go to PulseChain, you can go to dexscreener.com/PulseChain. You can go there and you'll be able to see the liquidity tab here. See this liquidity tab? If you go to WPLS so forget the W's, right? They're annoying, I know. PulseDI and Pulse USDC. See how it's 19 million and 17 million? You can add both of them up, okay? 19 plus 17 is 36 million. Now, this is the bid and the ask. That's the buyers and the sellers waiting there, all right? So if you divide it by 2, you will get one of those sides. So now you know, yes, somebody who sells just $18 million of Pulse will crush the whole ecosystem. HEX, PulseX, Pulse, incentive token, everything will get absolutely murdered. But on the other side, if somebody buys $18 million worth, you'll get a 4x in the price. Yes, that's exactly it, okay? There's $18 million waiting to sell. So if you double that liquidity, if you put in $18 million USDC worth and DAI, USDC, you will get a 4x of the price. Huge, right? 2x the offer, you'll get 4x the price because it's based off Uniswap. So that's the spear or spare. That's exactly what we're talking about here when we look at the ecosystem. So this is why I'm actually going to put these together here for you. I'm going to show you. So most people, you're going to notice, they're not going to come for HEX itself. There will be people who do. Of course, they come for those parts, but no, they're not going to come for all these coins themselves. They're probably going to come, not probably, they are definitely. This is how the whole system is going to be built, okay? The whole system is going to be built like this. It is built like this, not even going to, okay? So this is the leader, okay? And how I drew them before was I have another circle here, and we have the little liquidity bonding links. Like, woohoo, we're linked together, friendship forever. This is it, friends, this is it. So when Pulse moves up, the whole thing's moving up. See that on the screen? When Pulse moves, let's move this out. When Pulse moves down, everything's moving down. They are bonded together, all right? Pulse moves left, they move left. That's just how it's working. This is what needs to happen for us to go to the moon. If we want to be worth hundreds of billions of dollars altogether, the whole ecosystem, we need this to happen. Because if we don't, there'll be a giant disconnect of value. Most likely. Most likely, people will just disconnect Pulse from HEX, and a lot of random stuff like that will happen over time. But at the end of the day, this correlation or this bonding will help everything move up and down together. But yes, it acts as leverage on the way up. So this is why it is, once you understand this, and not many people do, this is the best part. Once you understand this, you realize why Ricardo himself, the spear of the community, you might say, right? He's a spear himself. So once you understand it, you understand why he's doing this. It's leverage, okay? So leverage is great if you don't get liquidated, right? Exactly. So leverage is fantastic on the way up. It's terrible on the way down, because if with leverage, you're playing with money that's not really yours. But what if we could use leverage in a different way? So this is another type of leverage. So what we've actually done here is, this is leverage, okay? This is another form of leverage. It goes under a category, but it's a gray area because no one understands it. It's a fuzzy area. So what we've done is we've gone, okay, let's make the spear this. And if we bond all these cool things to it, if the spear goes up to the moon, these should link to it too. And they do. You can see this by the ratios. Everything's linked together, right? You have incentive with Pulse. You have 28 million there. You have PulseX and Pulse. We know all these, okay? We know they're all liquidity bonded. So the magic is really on the way up, but the damage is on the way down. So in a nutshell, on the way up, people FOMO buying Pulse, for example, on Bybit, that will be impacting my HEX bag. Do you get me? Because the spear or spear is going up. So that's the beautiful part. So Bybit is an exchange. It does big leverage trading. So somewhere outside in the ecosystem, them all the way over there, somebody FOMO buying PLS over there, the market maker this is what happens, okay? So on Bybit, so this is Bybit's book, okay? There are buyers and there are sellers, okay? If someone, a degen comes in and he just starts buying up, right? A market maker is filled on these offers you see here. And what he will do is he will then go to PulseX itself and he will buy, this is what he does. He buys spot. Buy spot PLS. That's what he does. Okay. So yes, this is why a lot of people get confused. So I'm here to explain it for you. Like, subscribe, button, all. Thank you very much. Right. So People get confused because they're like, wait a minute, how come that guy who's sold, how does he end up buying and helping the system? Well, now I've just seen it. He is sitting, resting offers here. He wants to sell at this price. He wants to sell at that price. He wants to sell at another price. When he gets filled, they don't like being net short or net long anything. So as this buyer who comes in and buys it off this dude sitting on the offers, let's say they bought $10 million worth. This guy, literally, in that millisecond, he's like, we're net $1 million, $10 million short. We are net to $10 million short. Emergency, emergency. So these people who do this, they have tiny little sultana ovaries. Okay, yes, they sip on soy. In fact, they're probably drinking soy every single day of the week. That's the type of people they are. They can't stand to be in a position at all. They can't be diamond hands long, whatever. So they want to be what we call delta neutral. So they will get their position filled and they're like, we're going to make money. We're going to make a little 2%. No, not even 2%. We're going to make a little 0.0002%. We're going to make it, please. Then they'll go, the connection line goes straight to PulseX. They have inventory of stable coins sitting in there. And then they will go to the PulseX and they'll immediately buy. They'll buy Pulse itself. They'll buy it there, off the DEX. So they're like, good. Because here's the thing, right? On Bybit themselves, these guys will have a profit and loss flashing, right? So if they don't, so they just got filled for $10 million. If they do nothing and the price keeps going up, they might have a P&L of minus $10 million if they just leave it there for a month. You're like, crap. How do you avoid that? Well, you know how you avoid that. To avoid that, they buy on the open market. So now they have a net position. They sold and then they've bought. They sold 10 million and they bought 10 million, okay? Now, they can play around with it. Maybe they might be like selling a bit more than normal or a bit less than normal, but you get the point. So this is what happens. Now, this person who goes and buys this spot PLS, what they don't even care about, but what they will end up doing is, because of the spear and the ecosystem and Hart's Law bonding and everything bonding, what he doesn't know is he is pumping our bags too. He is dragging up EHEX by default, PHEX by default, incentive token by default, PulseX by default. He's dragging the whole thing up. It's giving all of us price discovery. Now, I want to let you know too, there is anybody in any big whale in any of these ecosystems, right? You got your Inc, PulseX, EHEX, PHEX. If they like the price so much, they can sell and they can crush their ratio, of course. Okay, so it's not like, why doesn't everybody do that? Well, it doesn't matter, because if someone really doesn't want a price to be there and they want to get out, they'll get out. So, you know, think about this. All the ratio bonding, does that stop like Wallet DO1 from selling 600 million HEX? You know what I mean? And just exiting? It doesn't stop him at all. But you get the point. So, but you get the point when it comes to a perspective of price discovery. So as we go up, we all go up together. This is what we really want, friends. So during, this is why. So a lot of people said to me, hey, why does it even matter if someone big can just come and sell? I'll tell you why, okay? You know this market maker from Bybit, right? Obviously, we're not listed on Bybit yet, but I'm just showing you an example how leverage trading, right? People on the centralized leverage exchange will still benefit us through the bonding, through this mechanism, right? Because it's a spear of the ecosystem, okay? So when this happens, you will notice that during the big green candle moments of crypto, and what I mean by that is when Bitcoin and Ethereum are having big green monthly candle periods. So I'm going to change, this is a Bitcoin chart, I'll change it to monthly, okay? So you see this is monthly, see these green candles, these are great, okay? When big green candles happen, crypto's doing good. So if you notice, this was the China and AI coins, this is the meme coin part, right? So you can see this happen. Obviously, these candles was the 2021, which we're going to get this like, maybe in 2025, we're going to get something of this series. But look what happened in the previous one. There are moments of just like nice green candles, okay? During those green candles, that is the period we're really waiting for, because that is when price discovery can happen in our coins. Now, price discovery just means to the market trying to find, hey, where we think is fair value, etc. The truth is you never really know. You just hope it's much higher than it is today. So you're watching the PLS price. So let's say this is the PLS price chart, and then let's say crypto, I don't know, maybe in August starts having a nuclear run up. Let's say Bitcoin goes to 37 or 40K. Wouldn't that be fantastic? And then we get to see everything dragging up our PLS, the spare, dragging up the whole ecosystem. We go up and up and up. Now, along this period, this is the best part. You know all these spearing, the spear action that drags up the whole liquidity bonding? When this happens, during this period, most people freeze, okay? Even the big whales. Not all of them, but the big whales just wait and see, you know? They don't just immediately sell, okay? When's, like, if Pulse just goes up 4x over, like, 3 months, no one's going to go, okay, I'm all out, you know? Some people do, but on average, people don't. That's how markets keep going up, because people, you know why? Because people are rational. They go, in this regard, they're like, wait a minute, I've been waiting how many years for this? I'm not going to get out straight away. Just, let's see what happens. It's been rewarding me. You know, you want to see how far it can go. What's the market going to establish a fair price at? So that's why no one really acts, okay? No one really acts until we hit a point where the market starts to go, hey, we're kind of screwing around now. We're kind of like finding value. When you start seeing those, you know, the volume starts coming in, people start playing around, that's when you get to see the market do value. Now, I'm going to remind you, even have a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin did the same. This is a monthly chart as well. You know, look, no one wanted to get out. No one wants to get out. No one wants to get out. These are besides big Chinese scum miners, all right? They want to get out. And then the market starts to be like, hey, we kind of run out of buyers. There's a lot of scum dumpers here. So you can see how we go up to the point where we find some sellers, right, on average for the month. This thing will happen too in our bags, okay? This thing will happen. So once we start getting those red candles, things are screwing around, something magical has happened here. When we've reached the top here, this is the best part, all right? In normal circumstances, in other assets that aren't always super duper correlated, what happens is there's a manual procedure of how big players set a spread or a price. So what I mean by that is when the market stops up here, you'll find big players, now that they're rich and now that they're rational and they're profitable in their position, in their trade, they will then look to cover the other cheaper legs. They will look to buy cheaper things. We see this mechanism happen in crypto. So look at this. When Bitcoin stopped, for example, up here, see this January, Bitcoin stopped. You can actually look at it on a weekly. It makes it much more easier to see, right? So you see when Bitcoin, this is based about, when Bitcoin was going up, this path, this trajectory, when Bitcoin was going up, altcoins were dying. Even HEX was dying here. Dying. Nothing could catch up with it. Nothing could catch up. But then you see these red candles? This was the first big spring. SHIB went like 400x immediately. Okay, when it stopped. You see this red candle? When it stopped. And then we kept going up. Bitcoin has it again, but then bang, alts again. You see, every time Bitcoin had these alts, when Bitcoin started settling down, everyone's like, woo, we're rich, we're partying on the moon. When all that happens, people will be like, oh, all this money flowed into Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now it will get dispersed. And now the whirlwind will happen. And we'll go to find the other little pockets. We'll go everybody, right? That's exactly what happens. Every single cycle. It happens in all markets too. This happens in gold and silver even. When gold goes up and then it establishes a fair price and it stays there, everything reprices higher, Because it's more of a perspective of everybody with the big bags. They just want to see where the price discovery takes it. It's going to stop at, 30K. It's going to stop at 100K. And then everyone notices, oh, we're actually stopping here, right? And then it readjusts everything where it wants to go. That's how money works. That's how really the mindset, the collective mindset of everybody, that's how everybody behaves, okay? Now, how do I know this? I traded spreads for like 10 years. I saw this like literally every single day. I just know this inside out, okay? Now, going back here, we can look at Hart's Law. This is the beautiful part, friends. Because of Hart's Law, because of all the liquidity bonding and all this, right? You see this big adjustment period up here? We don't need to wait for Pulse, the spear, to stop before the money rotates and we, fingers crossed, get a pump in HEX, PHEX, Inc, and PulseX, okay? In normal circumstances, we would. But because of the aggressive bonding, when the spear is going up and goes up here, what we'll find is there will be very generous prices for HEX, for PHEX, for Inc, for PulseX. The whole thing will get dragged up very aggressively. Now, you won't have super enormous blow-off moves in them, but the good thing is, instead of HEX, for example, staying at 5 cents, it will probably move in line and get to Pulse Multiplier for the run, and you might see HEX at like 25 cents, 20 cents. You see this boost? This is a big boost. Now, I probably overstated exactly how much it comes, but you get the point, okay? So this is an enormous benefit we have. This is what I mean by leverage. Now, as we know with all the things in life, your slippers can be fluffy, but sometimes you've got to have a shower once a week. You got to take your fluffy slippers off. So when it's time to go the other way, it's going to hurt. So yes, so that's why what we'll probably find, and I know you're going to forget this in 2.5 years. It'll be 3 years in the next bear market probably, but you're going to forget this, but I'll tell you this anyway. What we'll probably find in the next bear market, the very next bear market, is because of the ratio bonding in this ecosystem, there are certain prices we reached for HEX, PHEX, Inc, and PulseX, right? There are certain prices we reached that should never have been given to them, where they're basically overvalued, all right? Now, you won't know. There's not going to be a sign telling you it's overvalued here, because the market's just going to do this, up, down, left, right, woo, we're playing around, but you're not going to know that. You're not going to know that. But the ratio bonding has dragged it all up. So in another way, maybe, I'm hoping, friends, fingers crossed, maybe HEX and PHEX hit $1.20 each, for example. I know that'd be great, right? So if they hit $1.20 each, but perhaps it was kind of jammed up there with the ratio bonding because Pulse, as the spear, dragged everything up so much, right? I'm talking about the net effect of all the bull market buying, right? And then we might find by the very end of the next bear, you might find if you look back at the charts and you go, damn, there was a certain move. So I'm gonna draw an imaginary HEX PHEX chart. Okay, actually I'm gonna get it for you here. I actually have. Let's get HEX USDC. We'll just have a look here. You might find that. So we got $1 up here, right? Just for example, we might find that there's a period where everything goes sideways, about 50 cents to 60 cents for HEX and PHEX. But then there might be a final blow-off euphoria top in Pulse, which drags HEX and PHEX up to like $2 or something. You know, I don't know, just hopefully a high number. And then what we might find is when the weak hands start crushing the price after 50% down after the end, and they start just, you know, they basically do what the 4 PP Horsemen did. Once they start doing that and crushing the price, you might find that the weakest links that were dragged up also get back to their fair price like super quick, and you'll probably be shocked. Now, you might ask me, who's going to be the weakest link? I don't know. You don't know. But there will be, something's going to be the weakest, you know, and something's going to be the strongest. HEX, PHEX, Pulse, PulseX, Inc. We don't know what it is. Don't even try to guess. Don't even bother, because by this point, it's game over anyway. Okay? Everything loses, you know. So, for example, does it really matter whether your thing lost 95% or 98%? It doesn't matter. Like, it's over. You know what I mean? So this is what we might find happen. And then when we look back again in the future, we look back 3 years and go, oh, it was the ratio bonding that dragged us up this whole move. That coin, for example, you might say, let's say it's incentive token, right? You're like, the governance shouldn't have been valued at, you know, to give this giant reward. It was worth all the way down here, you know, because there's less people to defend the ratio when it goes down. So the beautiful part is I mentioned leverage. This is a special, unique form of leverage. You can't even really use the word leverage. It's more of a force multiplier. I like that. So yes, the force of buying gets multiplied out. It drags everything out, and everybody gets to wait and see, you know. Remember, in the other scenario, if we did not have this ratio bonding, I'm going to have to draw 2 charts here. So what you might find is you go Pulse goes up, like, woo, Pulse goes to the moon. But during this period, and now I'm going to draw a green, maybe let's say it's HEX that's a weak link, for example, okay? HEX might toggle around with it, just moving up and down. But then on the big disconnect, maybe HEX is only able to go like here. See this? HEX barely breaks its high, but Pulse has gone like maybe 5x above its high, you know, something giant, okay? Then what you're hoping is PLS, remember the yellow line is going to be PLS, once it starts ranging like this, just like how Bitcoin does, right, at the top of its cycles, what you might find is the manual correlation. So people clicking in will be like, oh, HEX should be much higher. Okay. Now I want you to know this part happens anyway. It's just the mechanism that happens is different. In this in this process that I just mentioned to you, this is a manual. So I'm going to write, you know, manual, not automatic. So anti-automatic. So this will be manual. This is where the leader, the spear goes to the top, it stops, and then the money rotates and it adjusts the ratio and fair values of everything else. That is the default process. This is how all markets work right now. But now that we have some juicy, aggressive liquidity bonding, we might find, right, if we go back to even to this example, we might find that, you know, HEX, remember this yellow line is Pulse. We might find that HEX does like this, like woo, like we go like maybe not all the way to the very top, but like right near the top by default, okay? And then you get to see that. You get to see this whole, you get to see them like trading this bracket, and this might be reflected in a very simple range-bound ratio chart of HEX to Pulse, you know? And I can show you this, for example, just so when I draw these ideas out, I want to say, okay, does this make sense what I'm looking at the chart? I want the chart to match up what I'm seeing. So I found, so this is, you know, this is HEX to WPLS. We can actually go here. Thank you very much. And you can see and observe the ratio here. So I'm going to switch to pricing in WPLS. Now this is HEX on top. Okay. I don't want to look at this. I want to look at the other one. I want to look at Pulse on top. So I'll go here, 3 dots of kindness and friendship, and I'll invert the pair. Now I'm looking at the equivalent of ETH BTC. So this is Pulse over HEX. Pulse over HEX, okay? This is what we're looking at now. So I'm going to change this to a weekly chart. So remember, I was just going through what might happen in the future. You can actually see this already. It's kind of like going up, right? So what might happen at the very end of that cycle, right, is if this keeps going up, let's say this keeps going, let's say this does sideways for a long time and just reprices higher. Eventually, at the very end of the cycle, you might find that this never really hits nuclear heights off the screen. It never does this. Instead, it does something like this, right? You might find it goes up, staircase, and then it hits a big area, but then just mean reverts again. And it just does that over time. And it never truly disconnects, okay? There was a period of disconnection I'm going to show you in another coin. Have you heard of Ethereum and Bitcoin? I can show you the ETH BTC chart. So this will be very, very wonderful to see. Look at this disconnection, friends. Let's have a look at the linear chart. This was ETH BTC in the first cycle. This might be what HEX and PulseX do. This might be what is. So the question is this PulseX HEX ratio future? Is this it? So maybe it's not it because this was so new at the time. Maybe the ratio of the future is like this. You know, Ethereum and Bitcoin basically have the same amount of liquidity. It's actually insane. See these brackets? Look how it moves now. Look how it moves. This is a completely different structure. This is just moving. This is bonded as hell. Okay. They're naturally bonded, by the way. Naturally. This is not forced. This is the market going, hey, Bitcoin and Ethereum, naturally bonded liquidity. Look at this. Nice ranges. Okay. Not really nice if you want to be gig along like we do, but it's nice for, you know, everybody in the system. Okay, it's nice and predictable. But this is what it was like beforehand. This is before anybody knew Ethereum would be a unicorn. You can see, look what happened here. So Ethereum absolutely blew the roof off. This is against Bitcoin. This is against Bitcoin. So this going up means Bitcoin can't move at all. And Ethereum is going nuts. So obviously this move is enormous. This is a 35, 36x. This was no ratio bonding, no liquidity bonding, no Hart's law, nothing. Nothing, all right? So this might be the future if there was no ratio bonding. But this is why when I look at this chart and I know the liquidity of Ethereum and Bitcoin, it's the same dollar amount roughly to move them up and down. This is what I see. Periods going up, periods going down. And this is a long time, friends. This is like 2 years, man. This is a long time. So this is fantastic that we can actually identify a different period of behavior. This might be our insight as to how this whole notion of HEX, Pulse, and how everything moves together, how they might turn out. Okay, so this is what we want to see. If you're providing liquidity, you want to see this. This is good news, all right? If you are all in on just one coin and you're hoping that it's going to blow everything, it's not good news, all right? Because in another world, there's no liquidity bonding. You got your 5 grand in Pulse. It goes up 10x against HEX, you rotate all your Pulse to HEX, and then you ride it back down, and then you buy back triple your Pulse, and then you ride it back up. That's like the La La Land. That's basically what I showed you here. That's here. This is people here converted, 10 Bitcoin into Ethereum, and then up the top here they had 250 Bitcoin. So this is a 25x. Okay. So that, and then they would have sold it and then bought it back, but obviously no one really does that because in theory it looks great on the chart, but it doesn't actually happen like that, okay? So there you go, friends, there you go. We have now gone through everything to do with Spear, Spare, Ispiro, and everything in between. Thank you very much, friends. I'll catch you in the next one.